What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new episode. Coach Joe here with Heartletics.com, and this one hopefully inspires you to just decide, right, to continue to progress, regardless if you're at your goals right now or maybe you're struggling or whatever the case may be. Decide to always focus on progression. Decide to always focus on continuing on and striving on at least, right, 1% better each and every day. So for today, we're going to be talking all about progress versus perfection, but doing so in a way where hopefully this story can really shine some light and just help you once again with some inspiration. So just the other day, I was going for a nice little walk in the park, and I happened to see a friend of mine, right? And so he asked me about, we're trying to figure out some times to go running, throughout the park. And I come to find out this guy loves running, these marathons and doing these long distance runs. And sure enough, I'm not a cardio guy at all, right? And he knows this. Well, now he does at least. But I'm not a cardio guy at all. Never have, probably never will be, honestly. So he saw me a few times running, throughout the park and whatnot. And so once again, we're trying to just mix and match our schedules around to go for one of these runs. Like every Saturday he runs like 6 to 10 miles. It's wild, right? So regardless, I see him the other day and he asked me, he said, "Hey Joe, we're talking about planning, a day to meet up for running." But then he goes on and he asked me, he said, "Hey, I typically," he said it so casually, right? He says, "I typically, right, for at least the first 6 miles, right? Like that's already hard for me, right?" He says, "Hey, I typically for at least the first 6 miles keep up about an 8 mile per hour run, And I was like, "Wait a minute. So you're running 8-minute miles for the first 6 miles?" I was like, "I don't even think I do that for the first 1 minute." So regardless, he tells me this, and he's like, "Hey, that's pretty easy for you, right? You could probably run a 7." Like, because he's seen me run a few times. He thinks I'm good, right? Sure enough, like probably within the first, 5 seconds after he's seen me, I'm probably huffing and puffing, right? Put my hands on my knees and just trying to recover at that point. So he's like, "Hey, so you could probably run a 7, right?" And I was like, "No, not even close." And I told him, I was like, I can't even get the 8, to be completely honest with you, So I was like, to answer your question, no. I can't get that. I'm not probably going to be there yet, And so it went on to him, he's like, "How is that?" He's like, "You're in great shape, etc." Like, and I told him about, once again, I'm not a cardio guy, never have, never will be, right? But I went on to tell him, like, "Listen, we're going to meet up the first time. I'm going to do as much as I can, as fast as I can, and then I'm eventually going to stop. And you're going to be off surpassing me on this run, And then I said, the next time after that, I'm going to go as hard as I can, as fast as I can. And as long as I go just a little bit farther than the previous time, that's a win for me." And I said, at that point, once again, you're going to progress, right? You're going to go way past me. And then I said, the next time after that, as long as I go a little bit farther, a little bit harder, a little bit faster than the previous time, that's a win for me. So to answer your question, no, right now, I can't run an 8-minute mile. I can't, right? I just can't do that. But I will eventually, And then it comes to a point where I told him, I was like, "Listen, one day, right? Mark my words, right? I'm not saying it's going to happen now. I'm not going to say it's going to happen in the next few months, next few years. But one day, if we continue to progress with this and continue to run, I will be able to keep up the entire duration, right? I'm no stopping at all, right? I'll be able to keep up to that speed your whole entire crazy mini half marathons you run every Saturday for some odd reason." And, this gentleman, he's in his mid-60s. So hearing that from a little, young buck, right? Somebody that's in their early 30s, hearing that just gave him a lot of just inspiration. And he told me that afterwards. He said, "You think very positively." He said, "You think differently than most people, that's especially in their young, early years, right? You think more of the glass being half full rather than glass being half empty." And I just told him that, so much times, and I'll relate this to maybe your health and fitness goals to really bring this home where you can gain that sense of inspiration. So many times, people just they're their own worst enemies. I hate to say it, but I wish people would talk more to themselves like how they talk to their friends. Meaning, like, if your friend was, let's say, going for a run and he hasn't ran in quite some time, and he comes back from this run and he's just dead tired and he's saying all this discouraging things about himself, and he's like, I'm so weak, I'm so out of shape, I'm never going to get in shape, or whatever the case may be. You're going to tell your friend, like, hey, dude, give it some time. Like, don't give up. You just started. You've been sitting on the couch for the past several years. Like, it's not supposed to be easy in the very beginning. But yet, we tell ourselves all these things that's complete opposite, right? We tell ourselves we're not good enough. We tell ourselves, like, we'll never amount to anything. We'll never have success. Like, it's not going to be easy. Like, it's going to be too hard. Like, whatever the case may be. We tell ourselves these lies. And we honestly end up being our own worst enemy and shooting ourselves in the foot. It has nothing to do with, like, the actual goal itself of where you're trying to get to. It's more so of, like, you're your own worst enemy. You're the one that beats yourselves up in the tracks, right? So it's like, if we all just talk to ourselves, like how we were talking to a friend or a family member, like, we would typically say words of, affirming words, right? Positive words, different things like that. Why can't we say that about ourselves? So it's like, it just goes to show you, right? That, like, you need to focus on the progression, not the perfection. And what do I mean by that? Well, it simply is this. You got to be able to look back and see and celebrate your wins and see how far you came. Because if you keep your goal on this pedestal and make it so far out of reach from where you're currently at right now, all you're going to do is discourage yourself and make it 10 times harder for yourself, because you have to learn how to be your own coach. You need to learn how to be your own support system. You need to learn how to hold yourself accountable. You need to learn more discipline. You need to learn how to be your biggest fan and be your best friend. Because I'll say it like this. If you don't believe in yourself, how can you expect anybody else to believe in you? So it's like so many times, like, we have to see, like, hey, set up these small goals and focus on that. Once again, consistency is key. 1% better mentality each and every day. If we can focus on that and not get discouraged and not be the ones to shoot ourselves in the foot every time, like, we're either hitting a stall or we go back a few steps, it's like, we're never going to get to our goals. We need to learn how to just start realizing this, that, like, as human beings, right? We have a lot of power. We have a lot of development. We have a lot of growth. We have a lot of, like, there's so much we just don't take for granted, and truly don't go on that path of unlocking this greatest potential about yourself, because you're too busy on what you don't have and you're not trying to build up on what you currently do have. So that was inspiring, my friend kind of hearing that in the midst of me telling him how, and he's jaw dropped, right? Shocked I can't run an 8-minute mile. But regardless, hopefully this message inspires you as well. So with that being said, keep on moving forward, one day at a time, one foot in front of the other. Don't give up. Don't go home. Keep on progressing. That's it. Progression over perfection. As always, guys, this has been Coach Joe with the Heartletics Podcast, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace out, Girl Scouts.